everybody, and welcome to my channel, Lessons with Guitar Man. My name's Aaron, and I'll be your designated driver here today for this really cool tune, Cold Frosty Morning. So what I've basically done with this is take it out of the open position and move it up to the 5th fret out of the A Dorian position, or A minor Dorian, whatever you want to call it, and basically done everything here in the closed position. Now, it is a little bit of a finger twister. It's not the easiest thing to do, but with a little bit of practice and a little bit of tenacity, you'll be able to get this one under your thumb in no time. And then if you combine this with the version that I originally taught on this channel, which I called Cold Frosty Morning Melody, I believe, I did that in the open position here. You can combine that with this one and then move it up into here, and you'll have two positions you can move between. All right, so let's go ahead now and dive right in there and see what makes Cold Frosty Morning Up the Neck work. All right, so the first thing I want to take a look at here in Cold Frosty Morning is the scale that we're going to be using here, which is A Dorian in the closed position, starting at the 5th fret with a root on the A string, and that scale is going to go like so. All right, so starting here at the 5th fret, what we're going to have here is 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, and back down, 8, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 7, 5, 4, 7, 5, 4, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5. All right, and so that's the scale that we're predominantly going to be playing this song out of. Now when we get to the B section, I move out of that and go up the neck and do a lot of double stops and things of that nature. But this song is predominantly going to be out of this A Dorian position with a root on the 5th fret. And so looking ahead now at the 1st fret, what we're going to have here is a 7, 7, followed by a 5, 4, 7, 7. So it's 7, 7, 5, 4, followed by a 7, 7. And that whole measure together slowly is going to sound like so. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, and moving on to measure number 2, what we're going to have here in measure number 2 is a 7, 4, 5, 7, 7, 4, 5, 7, followed by 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4. And that whole measure together slowly is going to sound like so. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, and moving on to measure number 3, what we're going to have here is a 5, 7, 4, 7, 5. So that's 5, 7, 4, 7, 5. All right, and slowly, 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, and moving on to measure number 4, what we're going to have here is a 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, followed by a 7, 5. So it's 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, followed by a 7, 5. And that whole measure together slowly is going to sound like so. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, and moving on to measure number 5 now is exactly the same thing as we did in measure number 1, so there's nothing new to learn there. And then looking at measure number 6, what we have here is almost the same thing as we did in measure number 2, except the last notes change. In measure number 2, it was a 7, 4, but in this measure, it's going to be a 5, 8. So it's exactly the same as measure number 2, but the last two notes. So measure number 6, all together, slowly, is going to sound like so. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. And measure number 7, what we're going to have here is a 5, 7, 5, 7, followed by a 4, 7, 5, 7. So that's 5, 7, 5, 7, followed by a 4, 7, 5, 7. And that whole measure together slowly is going to sound like so. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. And moving on to measure number 8, or the first ending here, what we're going to have here is a 5 with an open A in the bottom. Sounds like that. And then we're going to hammer from this 5 up to the 7 here and let that open A ring in the bottom while we hammer onto the 7, and that's going to sound like so. Which has kind of a neat little open string drone ringy thing going on there. Okay, and you notice where it says let ring, so you let that open string ring over the 5 to 7, and then the next two notes are 7 open, 7 open, and then 7 5. So that whole measure together slowly, or measure number 8, sounds like so. 1, 2, ready, go. All right. And looking at measure number 9, or the second ending here, what we have going on here is exactly the same thing as we did in measure number 8, minus the last two notes, or the 7 5, so there's nothing new to learn there. All right, so let's go ahead and play now through the entire A section slowly and see what that sounds like. So 1, 2, ready, go. All right, and for those of you looking for the rest of this lesson, the iReel profiles, the guitar profiles, the music, the tab, the backing tracks, the PDF documents, and so much more information about this lesson, you can come on over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/lessonswithguitarman, and all that will be available there for you. All right, so some final thoughts on this tune for you. In the very beginning of the A section here, you're going to have some string skipping going on, so it goes... Right there, you're jumping from the A string to the G string, so pay close attention to that. And then that note right there, I use the same finger for this note and this note. You can use whatever one works for you, but that's just what works for me. So it's... Okay, that's how I do it. And then moving on to the next part. Straightforward, and then back to the same motif there, and at the very end, I guess the only other, not tricky, but the only other thing to point out here is the... So you got kind of this pentatonic-y shape going on, and then you move from the 5th fret back to the 4th fret, which gives it a really neat sound, or hints at the G chord change there. That hammer on with the open drone string ring in there. Okay, so that's all there is to say on the A section. All right, well that's a wrap on this tune. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you have any questions for me, feel free to send me an email listed below in the description. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you down the road.